champions. You kind of see not really too many outs for Avic, but we'll see now as we will head into map number 1 between Rafa and Avic. It will be a best of 5 as we start off from Corrupted Keep and the POV of Rafa.
Yeah, and for me, this is the one Avic has to win. This is where the champion picks are the most even. Galena actually probably gets a slight upper hand for me. Avic's good on this map as well. We have an open engagement over by the Mega, and it is the EU server, so he needs momentum. He needs to win this map.
And Avic knows that as well. Just, you know, trying to keep his distance a little bit, but at the same time trapping him in that red room. Going back to the tri-belt, we picked the LG, but will he be able to get clean up? No, we will not, as Rafa's the one who wins that engagement, picks up the heavy too. Mega is still up, but Avic went straight for that on spawn.
Yeah, not the best start, but as you said, gets the Mega spawn, gets out looking relatively healthy. No toasters at the moment, just cooling down, so has that in his pocket if he needs to take an engagement, which he does. He's going in aggressive over Rafa. Takes a lot of damage. Can pick up the light and reposition, and with the items relatively on the same time, Avic will have to settle with Rafa picking up for one of them, as now he's out of position to pressure. It's heavy. Hasn't got rocket yet either. Rafa might not be entirely aware of that, as Avic made a move over to that area, but he is defending the choke point, so Avic will need to retreat. As I say that, Rafa's coming out super aggressive, and again, the utility, experience, and efficiency from Rafa is showing this opening minute and a half.
Calm and collective, just holding his position. Rafa now knows there's a possibility of a totem being on that LG spot, as Avic has recovered so much during such a small space of time. And Rafa though is going to try and push in and contest the Mega if he can. He was so close, but Avic's done so much damage considering the stack of Rafa. Rafa though 4 HP, just barely manages to survive. Needs to recuperate if he can, but Avic's going to try and trade him off, and yes, he does. And finally, Avic gets that first frag on the board.
A little bit greedy from Avic, but he's coming in here, but should be an easy conversion, and it is right before the next round of items as well. So perfect timing for Avic, who's clawing his way back into this game. He's also got Rafa up on the bridge. Rafa says, all right, I'm going to have to retreat and pick up the Mega, but Avic's saying, all right, I'm going to chase you down. Nothing to see here, so he does now push back onto the heavy, and in doing so has created a natural split onto the items, which means the next round could be a huge rotation for Avic if he can get a bit more chip damage onto Rafa before this next Mega.
What Avic's doing though, just keeping his distance, just using that heavy machine gun to its full extent, whilst at the same time having an out. Just either with the totems or picking up the lights in that red room. Rafa though tries to go bottom mid, very open, but Avic's only 22 HP, needs to try and back away if he can, but as he jumps over to that health bubble, Rafa had a feeling he was going to jump over to that side. Now it's 4-2 in favour of Rafa, but things that Avic cannot trade because he's so weak from that last engagement, but at the same time, Rafa, it was such a clean frag before, there's not really too much he could do, as Avic spawns in that red room, trying to see if he can do or try and inflict any more damage onto him. But look at the stack of Avic now. This is where he can try and come back. Mega is up, has been taken by Rafa, but look at the rocket damage already taken. Avic should have probably had that, but the rockets didn't really help him too much as Avic's going for the trade again, left on 8 HP, still doing a huge chunk of damage here, and Avic's just doing everything he can to go for the trade, but that rocket is not going to help. Cleaned him up with the LG. And another explosive start here, especially in this series. He's going straight in with the shotty. Will he be able to do some damage with the LG? Yes, he does. He's trying to hunt him down if possible. Drop down to the heavy machine gun, but Rafa's already picked up that Mega.
This is Avic through and through. Someone who just wants to throw their body at their opponent, break them down, and gets control, and that domination from there on out often wins in the game. But Rafa has just been relentless in his defense, and now it's at the point where Avic has to say, what do I do? My strategy's not working, but the scoreline has already spiraled to a point where I cannot stop. So that committal has come back to haunt him, and the big turning point for me was that natural split. And Avic let that Mega go for free, costing the next heavy, and it's just absolutely snowballed in Rafa's favor since then. If Avic can get a frag here, it might be able to stabilize, but he can't even do that, and Rafa is in on an absolute tear, lethal.
Sure is, mate. Literally, you know, he had the position, he had the range, just pushed in a little bit too much. So sure, he was just doing too much damage. Rafa's trying to clean up with the LG, but Avic though, with the MG, managed to finish him off nicely. Only left him 31 HP, but managed to regain a little bit of HP back. Trying to see if he can go for another frag, but maybe a little bit too greedy there, as Rafa is the one who manages to trade that out as Avic goes into the red room again.
This is painful as Avic will be going down here again pretty much for free. Rafa might even be able to convert it. Avic's going to come back in through. He's now decided not to do that. I think you used the term greedy. I would agree. Some of these pushes did smack of a bit of greed, and it just looks like Avic has not come with a clearer enough strategy. And there were times where he could have converted with one of these pushes off the spawn. Rafa did a good enough job to prevent that, and this is the natural weakness in that type of strategy. If it doesn't work, it can snowball, and then when do you take your foot off the pedal? Avic took his foot off the pedal far too late. With 4 minutes to go, an 8 frag difference. You have to say 9 frags now. There is absolutely no way Avic can get back into this unless he gets the absolute cleanest frag of his life. He continues to convert, and convert.
This is the problem you see for Avic. If you're playing against an opponent with a calm mental state who stands their ground ready for you just to push consistently on spawn, these are the kind of scoreline which could appear, and it's not something Avic really wants. He's hoping to trade on so many occasions. Even after 1 or 2 tries, he will do it again, hoping to at least, you know, if he takes him down, he can pick up his weapons, have some kind of weapon control, and then maybe pick up an item afterwards. But it's just not gone his way at all. So looks like Avic will have to write this map off, as we've only got 3 minutes and 40 left remaining. It's going to be very difficult for Avic to come back here with limited time, limited progress, and Rafa's just literally all over the items, still in full control.
Yeah. Well, items has been the biggest point of concern. I'm not sure if Avic has lost timing or what's up, but he's had 0. He's had 6 items all match, 2 heavies, 4 megas, which is just an unbelievably low amount at this level. He won't even be able to get this one unless he does something crazy. 5 seconds to go. Rafa even uses the dual wood just to push Avic away, who's forced to retreat. And he doesn't get that one either. And because of that, Rafa knows he can go aggressive, pick up the light. He's also rotating the lights. He's got more lights than Avic as well. He's been on the defense. And it's not a good sign, because if we pick this map, Avic, as a must-win in the series.
21 items controlled. Looks like Rafa will be controlling at least 25. We know that Cut to Keep can spiral out of control. Maybe if Avic did a bit more damage through and through in some of the past engagements, he could have traded it off. But like I said, Rafa was just always prepared. And even if he was only slightly prepared in some of those engagements, then at least, you know, he would have just traded back. It would have gone back and forth. But yeah, like you said, Avic's game plan not really working out for him here. Still a little bit too late. 11 frags in the next 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Highly, highly unlikely. And even with the totems though, you know, he hasn't really any chance for an overstack. He hasn't really kept the same path to actually make sure that they're secure. And Rafa's just been all over it, you know. He's been using the BJ dual so well on so many different occasions and always had that positional advantage for these items. That Mega was a good example.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the long short of it was Avic was too aggressive. I believe that aggression is one of the ways to unlock Rafa's defenses. He can struggle if you force the issue, and we've seen throughout the season, Avic is naturally the player that is good at forcing issues and setting the tempo of the game. He will start engagements and win engagements that he has no right to. But Rafa was more than prepared for that, and it was Avic who was on the back foot trying to set the tempo, but Rafa was the one almost treating Avic like a bit of a puppet, allowing him to have those pushes and manipulating them in his favor. And that's why we saw all of these conversion frags that Avic was seeking just ended up in Rafa's corner.
Don't have a minute 20 left. Avic gets a frag to his name. A little bit too late though. He is on a 12 frag deficit as Avic's just trying to keep Rafa back on Banana as he's going to go down towards that heavy. Decides to stand his ground. Not going to help too much, but yeah, it's definitely way too little too late here. I think right now Avic's just thinking about map number 2, what he can change up. But Cut to Keep is a different kettle of fish in terms of how you play out compared to most of the other maps. So I'm pretty sure that, you know, if we're looking at, you know, a completely different game plan, just trying to feel himself in map number 1. He knows that, you know, a lot of things he tried, you know, completely failed, and is, you know, a little bit of a misery for him. But, you know, that's all said and done. It's only the first map. Lucky for him, it's a best of 5. He's got plenty more opportunities.
Yeah, if we're going to be optimistic and say this is a silver lining, then you're right. You know, Corrupt to Keep can play out like this. This can happen where it just snowballs out of control and you don't even know how or when it happened. But we're moving on to Molten, which is the map you can and really should play a little bit slower. Avic wanting Anarchy as well will be forced into a little bit more of a reserve playstyle, which should benefit him to build his way into this series. And if he can play around his rail a little bit more, play the distance game, he might be able to build himself a nice little cushion and keep the scoreline close. And if he could do that, then obviously it really is anyone's game. But just want to see a more strategy coming out from Avic, because he wanted a brawl, he tried to force it, and Rafa was up to the challenge on that map at least.
Well, this is the thing. Avic's a very clever player, you know, in terms of strategies and tactics and what he wants to do. You know, he knows exactly what needs to be done. I'm sure he'll be able to rectify his mistakes, no problem. And look at that, though, 26 items and 18 lights for Rafa. And even looking at the damage, just under 260 more damage. So, you know, the damage was there for Avic. He just wasn't really, you know, executing the frags enough. You know, he wasn't really finishing his food on, you know, more than one occasion. It's just a shame that he was just, like you said, just way too aggressive on, you know, not just one occasion, but at least, you know, 5 to 7 occasions where he should have just left it. And even that right at the very beginning, you know, with the heavy machine gun playing, just keeping his distance, that's exactly what needed to be done, and he was doing it perfectly. It just, his style of play just changed after, I think it was just the first couple of minutes.
Yeah, he just needed to be more tactful. But Rafa, we'll credit him, he played out of this world. His item control was on point, didn't let slip on timings once, and his execution today was sublime. Every time Avic made any sort of push, he always got the first shot. I mean, you could see he out-aimed Avic. Yes, Avic did a huge amount of damage, but it's almost null and void if you don't have items, because Rafa can make these pushes where he knows his limits. He knows how much damage he can take, and he will absorb more damage and still get a clean enough frag to fall back onto items. And again, Rafa is the boss when it comes to choosing those situations. He will take an overcommitment, understanding that if it works or if it doesn't, he will have the positioning to fall back onto more items, to pick them up, and then to come back at you again before you have a chance to regroup. And that just worked time and time again. 19-9 is brutal. So it's all about resetting one map at a time. It is a best of 5, so the strategy runs deep, and we have a longer period of time to try and build, if Avic wants to build his way back into the series. But I was predicting a 3-1. If Avic won that map, it could well easily now fall straight to a 3-0 given the picks coming up.
Yeah, 19-9, not the best of starts, let's be honest, but I'm sure Avic will try and recover somehow, some way. But the next map will be on Molten Falls. We've got Rafa to Strog, got Avic with the Anarchy. I'm going to pick your brains a little bit, Dan. Tell me about this matchup, because, you know, with Avic, we've seen him play really well on a number of occasions, especially against Kilson in the Pro League. Rafa, I think one of the times I've seen him play Molten Falls, I saw him lose to Zanaku, and we know it's definitely one of his weaker maps. But do you reckon this is probably a great opportunity for Avic to try and pull that momentum Swift game?
It has to be. I think it really has to be. This is last chance saloon. I just can't see him winning on Vale scale against Rangers. So this is, for me, the last chance for him to get back into the series. I think Rafa and weak are two words that don't go in the same sentence. I would never look at any map or any champion and say Rafa is going to be weak on this. You have to go in thinking Rafa's going to be the best on this map, and I'm going to have to play the best to get back into it. Rafa he often bases his champion picks around tempo, and so Avic picking out the Anarchy, the Strog is an amazing counter to that, because you can match the speed more or less, and you have a bigger stack, and you've got the utility of the Pika to have that additional burst damage to stop Anarchy getting away sometimes. So it has the full range of skills to counter Anarchy. Avic's going to have to play a more strategical and slower game. He won't be able to play that fast, aggressive play into a Strog on Rafa on this map. So I want to see him slowing it down. I want to see him play the items a lot better, and particularly play around the rail. And if he could do that, he will be able to build into this game.
That's one thing I'm a little bit worried about, is the fact that Avic likes to play very fast and aggressive on this map. So we'll see if he'll continue that pace, or if things will work out a little bit differently here. So we will start on Rafa's POV. Delaying the heavy quite a bit, but the items aren't really too segregated enough to contest both these items. But Rafa has heard Avic drop down, does consume one rail, but has backed away for now, as the items will be back again in the next 10 and 13 seconds. It looks like both of them are just trying to see exactly where each other could be. I think they both realise that, you know, a bit of a gentleman's agreement here to kind of go for each other's items, but it looks like Rafa's decided to actually push in a little bit sooner than he expected. And Avic, I don't think he expected it, as you could see there. So Avic just made the assumption that he's probably sitting around on that Mega, but managed to realise that he's on top shotgun just a little bit earlier. Take a little bit of rocket damage, but Avic should be able to get away here.
Yeah, getting away, but in doing so as well, there's been a little natural split on the items again, so a big rotation coming up. Rafa's sitting up very early over by this heavy, trying to isolate it, force Avic away, and that rail will force him to do so. Avic's already popped the inject, so will not be able to put any pressure whatsoever onto this heavy. He's going to have to go and find a way to try and defend this Mega now. 2 seconds to go. Rafa won't have time to get there, so Avic comes out okay of that engagement, but Rafa's looking pretty so far. Nice trade from below, and the efficiency of the tri-bot, because Rafa thought, hey, it's going to be hard to hit a rail. I'll just make sure I get some guaranteed damage. Double rail from Avic, so Rafa now needs to retreat. Pika comes out to try and stop Avic. He himself returns with the rail. It's still a long time before this heavy. With Rafa in position to defend it until he eats another rail. But what? Okay, 200 damage from 2 rockets. Why not?
That was unbelievable. To say the least, Rafa's still got that height advantage waiting to find out where Avic is going to go here. As he circled round, but Avic has pushed in a little bit earlier, but managed to pick up the light and also taken Rafa down, as well as getting the weapons in his arsenal. As the Mega will be up in the next 12 seconds, he's going to... was thinking about going for that heavy, still looking to go for that now. Will he be able to contest it? That's going to be another question. As the first rocket done a little bit of damage, but the Pika is coming through. Not doing too much, but as a saver, yeah, flanked around and actually did a nice chunk of damage. But Avic's picked up the Mega, light will be up very soon, but Rafa's just going straight in with the LG, trying to see if he can at least try and clean him up. The inject comes out, but will he be able to clean up Rafa? That last rocket, sadly for him, just barely missed. And now Rafa is the one back in the lead.
A really great combat play by Rafa, recognized the wrong weapon choice, but Avic returns in kind with just 2 rails from above, back and forth as we go. Rafa knows he's got time to scoot across to this heavy. He might just fly on down, decides not to. Camps up top, tries to do some damage. Big rockets coming out from the American. Avic's forced away as those rockets do so much damage. Rafa's even pushing the Mega. Hasn't picked up the heavy yet. Avic will realize that. Might be able to get across, but Rafa is far too quick through the TP and gets onto the heavy. Really nice play by Rafa. Great situational awareness. And even delaying the heavy even more, recognizing he's got the stack advantage and wants full control of this map. Going aggressive through the choke point, but eating a lot of rockets from himself. Responded in kind. The peak is there. It does get taken out. They're both so incredibly low. No inject up. No resources from Rafa up the top. Decides just to back off, pick up the health, and go across to this Mega. Avic's already there though. Rafa hears it and says, oh dear. I am now out of position for the heavy as well, so he's going to have to go the long way around, pick up the light.
So close for Rafa getting that frag earlier, but Avic could push here if he wants to. Only taking a little bit of damage, still enough to carry on pushing, but has decided to back away, which is completely understandable. But he does have a small indication on where he could be. He's making the assumption that he's still top shotgun, but after that first rail from Rafa, he's going to still know that he's up top. But he's decided to go around for that Mega, maybe even a light afterwards. As the heavy will be up in the next 5 seconds, Avic does have time to go around and push if he needs to. Rafa just trying to get into position, consumes that first rail from Avic, and has to back away once again. It's looking very good for Avic here, just to make sure to stay on his toes and to keep Rafa back and maybe get this next frag. He's going to push it, but good 47 damage from that last rocket. As Rafa, though, still pretty weak, and Avic's got a very big stack. He's just going to push in and see if he can clean him up, but doesn't get the opportunity, sadly, for him. That last rocket did a little bit of damage, but that Mega is still up and looks like it will be contested by Avic, as Rafa needs to let him have it.
And the promising thing is Avic is playing exactly how we suggested he needed to. He's playing a lot slower, working the items. He's playing around that rail. Rafa's doing an amazing job on the defense. Good opening rail from Rafa, a second as well. Avic has picked up the heavy. Rafa should have won himself this Mega. That inject suggests that Avic still wants to make a move, but that rail will definitely stop that thought in its tracks. And Rafa predicting the drop down as well. Some amazing rails coming out from the American. And Avic's in a little bit of trouble now with no resources and no inject. Rafa knows that. He's going to push straight in with the lightning gun. It should be an easy enough frag. As I said, that one more rail will pull Rafa's stack right down, but the heavy's up there to regroup.
Much closer than we anticipated, especially. We've got just over 4 minutes left. Avic still only 1 frag behind. Great shots there from Avic. But it doesn't matter though, Rafa's already picked up the Mega. But look at the damage output from Avic. You even mentioned it during the pre-game, and you were absolutely spot on with that prediction, and you know what Avic's like in terms of his style of play. And that first rail is going to be so important, and the
Greedy.
second one comes out for Rafa as he now increases his lead.
That was so greedy from Avic, double peak. He missed the first edge. We have another engagement here. Avic goes down, really predictable. And now it's at a tipping point where Rafa could run away with the game. It's still relatively close, 4 minutes to go. This is manageable, but Avic needs to quell the tide before he gives away too many frags. But this is the point where Rafa can pick up the momentum. He's beaten one rail, dodged the second. He still knows Avic has nothing but a rail. Realizes the safer option is to go up above and try and deal some damage onto this heavy. Avic goes up here, it could be dangerous. He's gone up into one rocket. The nail gun's good, but the peak is bad. And the finishing rail from Rafa, who is on fire.
Was ridiculous, but it looks like Avic is trying to go for that trade again with the rockets. Hasn't got the position, but he will pick up the megas. So something is better than nothing, but the only problem is what he hasn't got is time. 3 minutes left. He's 4 frags behind, and we know how hard it is on this map, especially with Rafa having more mobility and speed. But look at this though, the damage output still looking good for Avic. But overall, it's actually Rafa with more damage output, just around 400 mark. Oh, beautiful rail there from Avic, and that's a good start for him. He's still got a few minutes left. He's just got to be quick on the mark and try and contest some of his weapons, and every item he can manage to get hold of. He can try and clean him up. Yes, he does. Only needs 2 more frags to tie things up here, Dan.
He does indeed, but priority number 1 is controlling these items. Now with a 15-second split between the two, that's a lot of time to go on the aggressive. Rafa's got a decent stack, and we're pushing over to this mega. He knows how important it is to have a presence on the map. Avic needs to be careful not to take too much damage, but he also needs to get this item as well. So there's the fine balance. The Pika comes out the safest way to deal damage from distance. He's done a decent job, enough to feel confident to push across, but without much lightning gun ammo, without a rail, Rafa will have to play a little bit passive now for the next 30 seconds.
On there as Avic now manages to pick up that heavy. He can contest both throughout the next couple of minutes, but it does mean he has to waste a little bit of time doing so, as he's just baiting out the mega to see if Rafa's in a position to try and get some chip damage, because he knows that Rafa does like to put the pressure on even whilst he's a couple of frags ahead, but it's actually gone straight past him. He was on the jump pad, and I think he may have just realised as he's turning back, and Rafa's actually gone back himself, so hopefully with the mind gains. But look at the damage that Rafa's done on those hourglasses to rail. He just stood there and just literally waited for Avic to come back round. He knew he was going to come back at some point, and the LG has done so much. This is not looking good for Avic. He's just trying to wait for that mega. He needs to wait a couple more seconds, but it's not enough, as this could be game here for Rafa.
So smart from Rafa, just playing nice and patient around the banana area, a common area for Anakin to use their air control and just use the audio cues. Trapped him by the rail. 2 pinpoint rockets and a follow-up rail. Avic had to make something happen by that mega. The item was too crucial this late in the game to not have a presence on. And Rafa will be taking this game with a fairly testing 8-4 victory. Avic played a lot more patient and strategical, but there were still those 2 or 3 moments where the scoreline just spiraled out of control, where he just showed his old self of being a little bit overzealous. And you just cannot afford to give that level of buffer on the scoreline to Rafa, where he can then play a bit freer. And unfortunately, it was a bridge too far for Avic, and he will have to find a way to create some magic on Veil with Ranger against the big boy Scale Bearer.
It's like a kid at Christmas, Dan. Just gets a little bit too excited sometimes. But even then, though, for Rafa earlier on that rail room, it's like, you know, he had 2 options. He can either maybe use a rocket to create a choke point and then do additional damage, or he could have waited there patiently, and if he doesn't get seen, that's another 10 or 15 seconds wasted. Rafa went for the latter, and look what happened. You know, he went back into the rail area anyway, did so much damage that he got a clean frag. Avic went for the trade again, and nothing happened sadly for him. But a great match from both these players. Avic put up a much better fight this time round, but now he's got to try and do a reverse sweep, you know, try and get 3 maps back to back. It's a tall order here now, Dan. But Avic, you know, we've seen what he can do. It's a possibility. It's a weak one, but we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, it's a weak one. Let's see what he's got up his sleeve. It was his choice to pick the Ranger up against it, so you never know. Is the burst damage of the orb going to be enough? I mean, you have to have item control. It has to be strong item control, because you cannot let that Scale Bearer run around with a full stack. Otherwise, he will just be crippling for you. There were some super clutch moments that defined this game. I thought they both played an amazing game of Molten. It was super entertaining. But now we are going to move on to a bit of a bloodbath, and I don't know. I expected this one to go the way of Rafa's. He's edging closer to that 3-0, which would have been slightly unexpected given Avic's form going into this series.
Yeah, it's the damage dealt, you know, a much bigger difference in comparison. 770 there. And even with the rail, you know, 55% against an Anarchy is astonishing.
Yep.
And now what can you do here? Even with the item control, you saw that Avic, you know, had a few more items, but that can happen. That can tip the tide, you know. During the dying minutes, if you're like, you know, 2 or 3 frags up, you purposely, you know, give your opponent the items anyway, especially in Molten Falls. We see it time and time again, and it's very difficult to come back from depending on the circumstances. But we are going to go to the 3rd map, which will be on Vale, like you said earlier. And this is a matchup you said you were very, very worried for Avic, just because of the scale versus the range, it's just the matchup overall.
Yeah, there are some maps where this particular matchup could work, but on a map like Molten, which is so combat heavy, where you can really force these close range engagements, you generally have to go stack versus stack. If this was a large, broad map where you could use your maneuverability in your advantage, I mean, Rangers didn't even have that much maneuverability advantage over Scale because Scale is so quick. You could call it relatively balanced, but you just don't have that advantage on Vale. You can close the gap, you can get into people's face, and suddenly that stack becomes a really important factor.
Fight.
Here we go, guys. This is the 2nd series of the day. Rafa versus Avic. Rafa currently up 2-0 in the series. Avic needs to try and win 3 maps back to back. Can he do it? It's possible, but it's going to be very, very tough, as we are going to start from Rafa's POV. Shenanigans he's going to be up to, and already just keeping that height controls, drop down to see if we can get an angle with that rail. Avic just managed to get away, and again just keeping that height, just making sure that he can contest both these items. Heavy will be coming up first. He's looking to go for that over Avic.
Avic going super aggressive, realizing the weapon choice from Rafa's wrong. Unfortunately, the orb does not connect with the Mega. Goes back through the TP, but predicted by Avic, whose rockets are good. No damage from Rafa so far, and Avic will be able to clean up the Scale Bearer. Slight over-aggression from Rafa there this time, but he respawns with a big stack, which quickly gets nullified by Avic.
All Avic needs to do now is stand his ground, contest his items, be careful with those narrow corridors and the choke points of the Scale. But, you know, it's easier said than done. Dan is now, you know, hasn't got the advantage in terms of position, but at least he can try and contest that Mega in a different way, where he's got nice, clean LG, good rocket, good LG earlier, but good rail back from Rafa, as Avic's got a slight edge in HP, not after that last shot, and he's got to be careful with the route he takes, as Avic's going to be dropping down straight after him, but even though he uses the bull rush, the orb came out, did some damage, but it looks like, oh, he just managed to get away. He was railable before he picked up that light, and Avic's just stuck in his prey, just trying to hold that angle earlier on, but he decided to go up top, contest the Mega. Rafa had the same idea as he rocket jumped up towards it, but through. What's a direct from underneath, Dan?
What a direct indeed, as Rafa eats the full force of that, and he's trying to set the tempo, but at the moment Avic's just being tricky enough and slippy enough to get away from these traps. If one of these connects and he gets a clean frag, then the snowball could come. So Avic needs to be very careful. Look at the stack difference. He got the frag, but he's still quite weak. Rafa's going to pick up the heavy and come charging through. The tribot comes spamming in there. The lightning gun's ready. There's already this split on the items. And now that split is now extended. He actually left the heavy up. Avic might not realize that, so that could become a problem for the next rotation.
Avic now trying to get a feel for his opponent. Realizes that he's probably around rail or LG. Just standing his ground. He's got the positional advantage. No need to drop down as of yet. Good first rocket. Didn't do too much damage, but tickled him a little bit. And after that first round, but the ball comes in, but he just orbs straight into him. That is just unheard of. But he's contesting heavy. Doesn't actually manage to get it. He couldn't increase his lead here. But he's just going to finish up Rafa here. He's on such low HP. Does clean him up. And now Rafa goes for the rockets on spawn. He knows he has the ability to stack to actually go for it, so that shouldn't be a problem. Now Avic just needs to be a bit more cautious during these next couple of minutes.
Yeah, but Rafa's done his job through all of that. He's won himself position and stack advantage for the next round of items. So Avic's going to have to play a masterstroke to do a lot of damage in the next 30 seconds to a minute, because otherwise the big bull's going to come at you. Going to get free conversions. Here should be a pretty easy path. He's caught Avic down in the acid. But as I say that, somehow he pulls out a masterstroke of damage with the orb, the rocket, the rail, and Avic takes it out 5-0.
This is just crazy, really, in all fairness. You know, we saw Maxter absolutely dismantle Rafa yesterday on Vale, and it seems to be the same again, as even with the champion advantage. Avic now just being so patient, just making Rafa think he was going to go for the telly, but eventually he did, just delayed it so much to do as much damage as he could before he gets taken down. Like you said though, Rafa in the perfect spot has decided to just push Avic straight away. No mucking around here. He's trying to push with a shotgun, but that first rail is going to do enough to keep Rafa back.
But I guess to add a little bit of context, you cannot live off this magic forever. Avic's going to have to forge his way back into this game and get onto these items, because eventually he's going to miss a shot and eventually the snowball from Rafa will come. Luckily he's got onto this mega and nullified that heavy, so he's doing exactly what he needs to do to settle the tide and restore the status quo of this game.
61% rail for Avic. Completely different from what we've seen in the previous two maps. Rafa just waiting patiently, but the tri-bolt is not going to help in the slightest, as Avic delayed the push to the telly. Still took a bit of damage from the rockets, but it doesn't matter because now he's ran that top mega. And Rafa's just trying to recover and recuperate from that last fight. Just testing Avic, seeing if he will go for that heavy, which he will do eventually. Misses that first rail. That was so important, as Avic now's got a huge stack as we head into the second half for this third map.
Yeah, and the tempo begins to settle down now, and this actually favors Avic. He doesn't want it to be such a big fight. Big rockets from Rafa as Avic goes through the door. Mega's up though, and Rafa's not in a position. Instead, he's actually dead as he tries to challenge. Avic connecting with everything so far. Rafa spawns over by the heavy. He's not up for a good 5 seconds. Avic's got time to keep whittling down this stack of the Scale Bearer. Yeah, he needs some weapons, but no, denied. Another orb and deletes Rafa.
I love that as well, you know, with the weapon. Oh, he's going for the bull rush, trying to finish him off, and yes, he does, but that earlier frag was so important, and the way he did it as well. Instead of switching weapons, knowing that the animation is going to take a couple of seconds, just use the orb, and it will just, not just make life easier, but at least you can guarantee the frag rather than risking more damage taken or consumed, shall I say, for that next fight. So 4 minutes left, and still Rafa needs 5 more frags to try and attempt to tie things up, but Avic, a little bit of a misplay, you could say. The heavy is actually pushed him straight into it, Dan.
That's huge. That was such a big item. If Avic got, if Rafa got that cleanly, it could have been a big lifeline in this game, but instead, Avic's back and another orb to delete Rafa. Somehow, Avic gets away with absolute blind murder. Rafa's going to come straight back in, knowing how weak Avic is. Here comes the rockets, but he got a couple of big shotgun blasts up, which will prevent Rafa from being too aggressive off of the spawn.
Even though Rafa's getting these trades, Avic is still technically doing his job, just delaying time. Still needs to delay a bit more though. That direct was just incredible. Good prediction there from Rafa as he tries to finish off the LG, but Avic has a slightly bigger stack, cleans him up, and now he's up 9-3, picks up the mega. Knight's just waiting for him, and he's now just preparing for that heavy, but already Rafa's pushing straight through with the LG, not given the opportunity to get that height advantage over the heavy to try and contest for it, and Rafa knows he needs to try and get this. If he does, that'll be huge for him, and he misses the for the heavy, and now he's going to try and clean him up. Yes, he does. Hasn't picked up the heavy yet, but he's just taking his time. But as I said, he's only got 2 minutes 40. As you saw there, Avic most of that first rail as he went through it.
Yeah, and he's hit so many clutch rails this game. He's on 70% rail lead with 17 hits. And that's been a big decider. Another one come through. The orb absolutely disorientating Rafa with these orbs. Rafa needs to make something happen with 2 minutes to go. It's still definitely possible, but he needs to keep his foot firmly on the accelerator, because every second that passes is a second nearer that 10-minute mark. And here we go. There's a big clean item pickup. He's going to go aggressive here. The bull rush isn't up though, so he's going to have to go the long way around. He does pin Avic up, but he gets the bounce and gets away for now. He's extremely weak. But this is a big turning point as the next major item is taken for free, and Avic is on the ropes.
Avic just needs to be careful in terms of the position he actually stands in. If he's going to play a lot more defensively, as you may have noticed, Rafa is just going straight into the rail room instantly, every single time, just to confirm that no one's going to be there, because that is a lot of people's first instance of where they're going to go if they're going to play on the defensive. But Rafa goes straight there every single time, about a second. Oh, but he pushed him back from the heavy. It's only on 16 HP, but Avic can still be taken down, but the tri-bolt stops him going for that heavy. 4 frags behind still, a minute 20 left. You could be right here, Dan. As he drops down, needs to try and clean him up if he can. No, he doesn't. He gets to trade. So I think you're right here, Dan. It could all be said and done with only a minute 10 left to go.
Yeah, as I said, that Rafa comes back in, trying to hit some rails. The bull rush comes out. Avic just doesn't even get away from this one. Big damage coming out, though. And every one of these frags Rafa gets hasn't been clean. And that is exactly what Avic needs. It doesn't matter. Look how weak he is. Rafa now needs to spend a good 15 seconds regrouping and restacking before he can push in on Avic. And Avic knows how weak he is. He's going to take a nice defensive position here, over by the heavy, after stealing it. Hasn't got a rocket. So if Rafa comes steamballing in, he could drop off and just LG him.
Position of Avic then, normally considered a passive spot to stand in, but you can see that Avic's still trying to do a little bit of damage. He's not on the full defensive, but he's just doing a little bit here and there just to keep Rafa at bay in case he does need to trade straight afterwards. 20 seconds, still needs 2 frags. Literally almost impossible here, even though Rafa's got the stack, and Avic literally almost on the opposite side of the map. He was on LG, going back to rail. He's going to rotate round to heavy, and that's pretty much said and done here, Dan.
Yep.
With 5 seconds left remaining, so Avic does get a map on the board, and our predictions are just going absolutely out the window here. Maps which we think aren't going to get taken by Rafa get taken. That one, you know, bit of a disadvantage in terms of Avic in terms of champions, but Rafa has been quite weak on Vale, as it showed there. Just over 1,300 more damage for Avic. Ridiculous.
Well, just as it should be. This level of Quake, the players are throwing up, ripping up the rulebook and saying, nah, you don't know nothing. And I mean, full credit to Avic. Like, on paper, he should have lost that, but the incredible plays, the clutch moments, the constant damage output he was putting out to Rafa. He was winning fights he had absolutely no right to win. And I'm sure there was more than one bullshit shouted by Rafa during that match, because I was very close to shouting it a few times as well. Full credit to Avic. But, you know, I said the magic can't last. That was one map of magic. He needs another 2 in a row to stay in this series.
Yeah, you saw there's 63% rail. Huge amount of map presence from Avic. And it was nice to see, really. You know, I liked what Rafa was doing anyway on the, you know, when he was being counter-aggressive, just going straight to the back of rail room every single time without fail, without a second thought, because, you know, like you should do, just go for the obvious spots straight away if you feel like your opponent is going on the defensive, which, you know, rightly so, managed to catch him a couple of times. But this is the thing, though, Rafa, you know, was losing some important engagements. Yes, you know, sure, he can get the trade, but he's still, what, 4 frags behind, 5 frags behind.
Yeah.
You're not really doing anything. Yeah, sure, you're getting the trade, but it's that first engagement, beforehand, you have to win. If not, you're just going to waste another 30 seconds having to, you know, get map control again and then trying to find out where your opponent is, playing the guessing game.
Yeah, I mean, the orb usage was, I mean, I've never seen such effective orb usage from start to finish.
So good.
Normally you see, you know, 1 or 2, maybe 3 a game, but there was at least double figures of amazingly crucial orbs in that series. Again, that was obviously the theory behind it, the fact you can play a high tempo and you have the burst damage of the orb. I didn't expect it to work as well as it did. You know, 65% rail, nearly 40% LG, and as you pointed out, they're 1,400, 1,500 more damage roughly from Avic's side, and that's what won him the game. He managed to play the items extremely well, almost bang on even in terms of item control, so did his job on that front, and then made sure the engagements were crisp and clean. Couldn't expect it, but as I said, there's still 2 maps to go, and we're moving away from Vale now.
Yeah, even though the map control felt like it's a little bit more in favour of Rafa during that later stage of the map, you saw there 18 items controlled for both players, and there was only 4 lights in it. So both of them just, you know, just trying to fight for control, so much back and forth. And I still think that, like you said, that scale bearer pick was a very, very good choice for, you know, what he was up against. But, you know, for Vale, it feels like, you know, it's definitely one of Rafa's weaker maps. Okay, yeah, sure, fair enough. Don't get me wrong, he's good on, you know, all the bloody maps, but, you know, there is some weaker ones to him, and, you know, we've seen that Vale hasn't really been one of his strongest point, shall we say, going into the finals. But moving on anyway, going on to the fourth map, which will be on Awoken. Rafa on the Nyx with Avic on the Doomslayer. This should be interesting to, say the least, how Rafa will be using the Ghost Walk, how he's going to try and get some kind of map control. And, even with the trade-off, it's going to be very, very difficult for Rafa. But Avic needs this now. And if he wants to try, take this to map number 5, momentum's going to be so much in his favour. Going to map number 4, it's 2-1 in favour of Rafa in terms of the series scoreline, if you're just joining us, as we're now heading to Awoken from Rafa's POV.
Yep, and we were talking about in the intro that Rafa first picked the Nyx on this map. He left the Doom for Avic. So, what is the game plan? Maybe he just picked it because of the Ghost Walk, and he knows how aggressive Avic wants to be, and he always wants that additional utility to get away from him. We'll have to see how he plays it. I haven't seen Rafa play a Nyx for quite a while, so it is more of an interesting pick coming out from him. It also matches the utility of the Doom in terms of the movement. There is always that. But 2 opening rails, perfect play. He does pick up the heavy as well, and they do trade items. And an aggressive Ghost Walk comes up from Rafa, trying to hunt down Avic. Gets caught completely off guard. Big rockets from Avic though coming out. But Rafa does take the first frag of the map.
Yeah, good predicted rockets. Avic's looking to go for the trade straight away, but not going to happen. Nice idea, but just wasn't enough. It's Rafa now. Still just standing his ground, trying to contest that Mega. Heavy's coming up in the next couple of seconds anyway, decides to go for the Mega instead anyway, hoping that Avic will get a bad spawn, but still left the Mega. Oh, the rocket does manage to take him down. And Avic's going to be one with full item control, but as I say that, Rafa does go for the Heavy. Just barely manages to take him down, but as I say that, he was on 62 HP. Tries to get a dodgy rocket going for the telly, but sadly does miss him. Hasn't really got any lights to pick up. Heavy's not up for another 15 seconds, so he's going to
behind. Call out.
Rafa does take him down and finally regains the lead.
Avic knows it, that's why he's going aggressive. Great tracking from Avic, somehow winning that fight. He had absolutely no right to. Heavy's up, Rafa's already on point, but without the Ghost Walk again, he's a bit of a sticking duck. It's about how much damage can he do? The answer is a lot. 1 HP for Avic. I'm sure Rafa now will continue the onslaught to come back. But this is the challenge with Nyx. When the Ghost Walk's not up, you are so vulnerable. And Avic has been capitalizing upon that. The 2 times Rafa has done it, he's caught down here. The Ghost Walk's just come off cooldown this time, but the damage has been immense.
Normally, a lot of players use the Ghost Walk to prepare for items or, to get ready to push for them. But, we've used it, well, we've seen it so much, especially from Wenger earlier, where they use it just to clean up their opponent or just to try and at least make a predictive read and then clean them up afterwards, which is perfectly understandable. As Avic now just standing his ground, still got a slight stack advantage. Rafa's going to struggle just a little bit going for the item here, depending on if Avic hits this rail. But it looks like he has backed off. This is up the next couple of seconds, but Avic's already on the item. He's looking to get the Mega, manages to pick it up mid-fight. Huge from Avic. I don't think Rafa expected him to be so aggressive going towards that Mega when he saw him come from rail. And look at this full item control for Avic here, Dan.
Absolutely, it was a big item to win because he won it relatively clearly, as you said. It's one of those fights he had no right to enter the room for, and yet he did. And Avic's taken the whole map away from Rafa, who's got no armor to work with. He's just going to have to run. The Ghost Walk's going to be popped here once again. And Avic is doing such a great job of taking the map away and forcing out the Ghost Walk. And now Rafa has 40 seconds to cling on for dear life. As Avic's coming barreling through the doorway. Doesn't quite get the frag yet. Where's Rafa going to go? The answer is to his grave.
This is absolute madness. Some of these pushes from Avic should be illegal here, Dan, at this moment in time. Good top mid push. Good read from Avic. This is exactly what we wanted to see from him from map number 1. He's definitely brought it to the table. Up 7-3 in map number 4. Could be seeing a potential map 5 if this keeps up. He is available, but he hasn't got a rail to his name, but does pick up the Mega, picks up the light. He's in perfect position to go for this heavy. Even if he hasn't got that height advantage, he can make something happen here to keep him back. He hasn't got much LG ammo, but it doesn't matter. He's still got enough stack to push this. But Avic lost that fight. Unbelievable. He's trying to keep Avic at bay on the LG spawn.
What a move by Rafa, using the air double jump, wall jump to get over the top and confuse Avic. He still needs to keep this up. There was his 3 frags down, and we're on a bit of bloodbath. Nyx doesn't enjoy this type of gameplay. She wants to control the game. She wants to have the lead and set the tempo. Avic so far has been the one to force the issue. He's done a great job of it. But here we go. This could be another frag for Rafa. Is he pushing in with the lightning gun? The damage from Avic just isn't there. And the snowball from Rafa could begin. Tribal just licks Avic on the way through. The Ghost walks up and here it comes out. He's going to shake Avic down. Avic rocket jumps away, but look how weak he is. He's trapped in this room. Had to pop the berserk just to try and get away, but Rafa's read it perfectly. A big rocket, but there's a light and there's the mega. Rafa's close to tying us up already.
Tables have turned so far, even though Rafa's one frag behind. Avic's doing everything he can to stand his ground and push for these items, but it's not for another 15 seconds. Rafa with another great rail. Ties things up. He'll be pushing for that heavy as Avic comes to the top mid, just trying to find exactly where he is. Good rocket there from Rafa. Good prediction from that jump pad.
Avic needs to go back to basics and get timing on these items, as you just pointed out. Potentially a missed timing over by that mega cost him dearly. And now I don't even know if he heard this heavy as he goes through a door. Another clean frag from Rafa. Avic needs to get some items. He needs to get some information. Oh dear, there goes what comes out. Dodges right through the berserk. And Rafa will be able to extend this lead. It's looking slim for Avic now. Just needs to reset.
It's not looking too good, but that rail is definitely going to help. A little bit of damage there, 27 from that rocket. Good rail again. That was a very hard angle from Avic. As Rafa isn't railable, but Avic can definitely push this. He has plenty of time on his play. 3 minutes 40 left. Pushes in. Good shotgun from Avic. Good read. Good prediction. No, but Rafa's going to push straight away. Tries to stop Rafa going for those rockets, but it's too little too late. Rafa is still weak. Gets, recuperates just a little bit here. And now he's 2 frags ahead, waiting for that next mega.
The Dark comes out, the Ghost Walk is forced again, so at least Avic got a minor victory and the ability usage out from there. Smart by Rafa by not going for the mega in the first instance, which he might have died. But it's very much game on here, lethal. As Avic's back into the game, he has timing on the items again, so he can settle himself. The problem is, he has no weapons.
He hasn't really got much to play with. But Rafa certainly has, apart from that rail. But that rocket is definitely going to not do him any favours. Picks up the heavy, tries to clean up Avic. Avic just manages to survive. He can't afford to take any more deaths or concede any more, shall we say. As he's going to push in, he was actually going for the light at the time. I don't know how he managed to get away. Must have been about 1 HP. Now he's up to 26. Oh, good rocket there from Rafa as Avic tried to make an early exit. Didn't happen, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure why he entered that room. He had information of where Rafa was, trying to force the issue here. The Ghost Walk comes out again, but Rafa has the heavy to fall back on. So it's not the end of the world for him. And we're at a point where time is beginning to slip away. And this is where Nyx can come into her own and play that plus back game. Use the Ghost Walk purely as a getaway tool. And 3 frags is an awful long way to go against a Nyx, and a Rafa Nyx at that.
And you can see as well, Avic purposely trying to use that berserk to waste his hourglasses as well, so Rafa can't recuperate as quickly as he normally would for his Ghost Walk. But that's not his only worry here, as Rafa now, momentum heavily in his favour. He's got the health bubble and the light to stand on if he does take a fair amount of damage. Decides to go underneath. Good first rail from Avic, but it's just not enough as Rafa's already picked up that heavy. Good rails there from Rafa. To be all said and done here, Dan, that could have been the winning frag. 90 seconds left for Avic to try and make something happen there.
He's going to have a few miracle rails here, but the Ghost Walk comes out, the Tribolt's done its job, and Rafa is hunting. Doesn't connect, but it doesn't matter. He won himself the item, and that's all he needs at this stage of the game. He might not even bother committing for this heavy. He doesn't even need to, but he decides it's worth the risk anyway, and Avic's not going to show. He's just going to have to hit some glorious rails, which is letting him down at the stage of the game he needs the most.
60 seconds left remaining. Not looking too good for Avic here. He's had some good rails throughout the course of the game, but it's all slipped away from his fingers. He was 4 or 5 frags ahead. Good drive-by rail there from Rafa. He's just making matters worse at this moment.
Yeah, rubbing salt into the wounds, but you have to credit Avic for the comeback. If Map 1 did not go to plan, and not even sure really what the strategy was, but there was a point, tipping point, and he pushed past it, and there was no coming back. The snowball was too strong. Map 2 was good, but again, Rafa just had the edge there, and we just saw the fun and the full skill of Avic come out on map 3, and this was as close as it could have been. There was a 4 frag difference, but it was a much closer game than that represents. So, full credit for Rafa. He looked vulnerable earlier in the tournament, but as Rafa does, he gets better and better and better, and this is the best we've seen him play so far.
GG's all round. As you can see there, Rafa does take the series 3-1. It was, you know, at one stage we did assume that there's a possibility that it could go to map number 5. Avic was looking so good after the first few minutes of that game, but sadly for him it just wasn't to be as the time dragged on. And look at the damage though, just under 1240 damage in comparison, massive from that last map as well. And even for the rails from Avic, sadly for him, didn't go his way. Hit some incredible shots, but only 23% to Avic's 38.
Well, let's bring DJ Wheat back on the disclaimer that he cannot talk about Scalebearer. Everything else is on the limit.
I was not going to say anything, but you're the one that brought it up. I'm glad this went 3-1. Avic looked good, but you know, Rafa showing his consistency and his ability to stay alive in these brackets. He now, you know, will find himself going up against Wenger. In the previous stage final, he found himself going up versus Kilson, but of course, Razy brought it back. Either way, I mean, Avic looked pretty impressive, and Rafa looked like Rafa. I mean, he pretty much dominated on keep. Some closer moments on Molten, but you know, kind of expecting that. And then, you know, I thought the Veil game is actually pretty interesting, all things considered. But that final matchup, I think, pretty much told the tale. And Avic's not out of it yet, but you know, I think he performed. He performed well.
He performed well, but there's definitely again some holes that he can fill in his game.
Sure.
Like there was that big mistiming on the Mega midway through Awoken on 6-7, where he just stood around 10 seconds and died. And then Rafa got the free frag, snowballed from there, and swept up the map. Same on map 1. There was a few big mistimings we saw coming out from him, and he didn't switch up the strategy. You just can't make mistakes against Rafa. And if you're going to do that, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, Rafa continues to be someone who rarely makes mistakes on you know, himself. And I think that's actually one of the most incredible things about watching Rafa is even with the map awareness and the aim and the strategy and everything else, he very rarely is making a mistake where anyone is saying, oh yeah, you really messed up on that one. And now it's resulted in 4 or 5 frags. And it's tough to play that way. So, you know, congratulations to Rafa. He takes the second semifinal and finds himself in a familiar spot. And, speaking of familiar spots, we've got Rafa now here for an interview, something that he's used to and we're used to as well. Rafa, congratulations. Making it to the upper bracket finals yet again. This time, things are different. We see a lot of players that we're used to kind of seeing in the upper, but Wenger really bringing it out. And, you know, I have to ask you, you've had a wide variety of players that you've played in the upper bracket, but I think Wenger has been showing himself as someone who has grown a lot. Earlier this stage, he talked a little bit about wanting to change his mindset to be a little bit more like yours. So would love to hear your thoughts on your upcoming matchup versus Wenger.
I'm really excited to play Wenger again because, like you said, I think that he's been improving mentally. I think just the thing that he's been working on the last 2 stages is just consistency within the game. I think there were times before where he could see his overall strategy where maybe he was trying to survive too much sometimes, or there were some games he was playing too aggressive, and he's really trying to take a very balanced approach to the game now. So it's going to be very, very difficult to play against him today, but I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
The only question I have really is just on one of the maps. Now, you lost to Vale earlier on against Avic, and it's not the first time you've lost on Vale this weekend. Is there anything in particular with that map which you kind of dislike or you're uncomfortable with, or is it just being complete coincidence?
No, Vale's actually one of my best maps, so the fact that
Oh.
I've lost it twice, I think it's just the Maxter game. I just kind of won't go into that. There was just to put it simply, there was no way I was going to win that one. And then for this last one, I just got a really bad start, not due to any like bad decision making from either player. I just missed a ton in the first two fights. You can't let Ranger get 2 clean kills at the beginning against Scale in that matchup. It needs to be messy and back and forth until Scale finally gets control and then just steamrolls Ranger the whole game. And since I didn't get that, it made my journey very difficult to try to get back into that one, especially with how hard he was hitting during that game. So right now I just need to shore up, the beginning part of that map and just play better for the first kill, and all will be well.
Got a 2-part question. The first part is if you're able to share. You said you had a kind of a bit of strategy going up against Avic. Is there something you could share? And did the Nyx pick on Awoken come into that because you left Doom open and picked Nyx?
Yeah, well, for that map, he had the ban going into it, and he decided to ban Athena, which is what I would have picked if he left it up. So I just looked at Doom and Nyx, and I figured the way that he's been playing Nyx lately, I think